it's normally what's beneath that needs to be seen or heard. The protection mechanism is the anger, is the outburst. What's underneath that. And I feel like that's also that knowledge gap of we get scared or shy away or shove under the rug because of the outburst. When if we give it a little more time, if we open that door a little more to welcome everything through, then we can see the emotion under the emotion.
Hey mama, welcome to Naturally Empowered Living, your safe space to guiding you on your unapologetic self-awakening journey to learning your energy of alignment and feeling good again. This is your weekly sanctuary to wake up from autopilot and transform the way you approach motherhood and life through the power of meditation, energetics, and root cause therapy. It's my mission to help you embody the foundations of self-love, trust, and interconnection to be unapologetic in the evolution of who you are. Here, we honor all parts of ourselves, the messy and the magic, the shadows and the light. If you are ready to get to the roots of cultivating real change, warm up that cold coffee, pop in your earbuds, and tighten that top knot, mama. Let's discover our power within together.
What is up, beautiful mamas? Welcome back to another episode of the Naturally Empowered Living podcast. This is your host, Jenna Smith, and today's going to be a little bit of a mashup of my thoughts. Is mashup the right word? That just kind of came out. But it's just going to kind of be what's going on lately. What's going on lately in my brain, within Naturally Empowered Living, where we're going, where we're headed. I feel like we've been in a little bit of, I don't even know if a rebrand is the right word. I love the word evolution a little bit more, just in the sense of we Naturally Empowered Living, like the services that I have offered in the past and where this brand started, like it started as a blog, a postpartum blog, because I was so lost in the fourth trimester and I like lost who I was. But now, like looking back, I'm like, it was actually like a rebirth and like all the cliches of like, you know, what's that? Here, I'm going to start with a quote right away. Like, it's not just your baby that's been born, it's you too, right? And looking back like that, I was going through a complete rebirth of who I was, a complete awakening of who I was. And I was just connecting to, I was bridging the gap to my soul's essence. And I see that now. And I feel like then when I had my second, it was like a little bit closer. And it's been so beautiful because I know we all have those like awakening moments in different aspects, different areas, different times of our lives. And there were a couple more within my life too, but when I had both my kids, like those were the two most impactful within this season of my life when I look back at those awakening moments. And yeah, I mean, just with Naturally Empowered Living evolving from just a blog to then, you know, I dabbled in network marketing, or I was actually in network marketing before I started Naturally Empowered Living, but it was almost like that was the wake up call, like kind of like you've always marched by the beat of your own drum, like why are you feeling so stuck within network marketing? Like spread your wings. Like this gave you that taste of, you know, following your soul's path, following your life's work. And that blog just evolved into kind of, you know, mindset, health, time management. And the more that I've grown and the more that I've, you know, worked with other people and seeing just common denominators within, you know, them, within clients that I've worked with, and then with myself too, they're like, we're evolving again. And I feel like every pivot, every journey, every failure, every turn, every, you know, new beginning, every closing chapter, it has just narrowed in closer. Like nothing is ever a failure. Like nothing is ever wrong if you see it through a lens of it's getting you closer to where you're meant to be. And I just see, like, I picture a funnel. Like, this is my life personally. Of course, we all have our own, you know, journeys. But I, like, see the top of this funnel. You know, it's like the big roundness. You know, everything gets thrown in. And over the years within just my business, it's like we're getting closer to that, you know, coming out of that funnel, like that clarity piece, that piece that narrowed in, that dialed in. Like, I'm connecting to my soul's mission here. And I have this inner knowing, like I've had this inner knowing for so long, and I'm like, we're finally here. Like it's happening. It is happening. And over the last 8 months, I was in a immersive, very comprehensive certification process to become an instinctive meditation certified instructor. And it was intense. It took up a lot of my life, a lot of my time. And I loved it for that too, because that's what I love about, finding something that lights your soul on fire, like finding your passion. Like it doesn't feel like work. So that's my hobby. Like I was just listening to a podcast the other day. They're like, what's a hobby? Like, I don't have any hobbies. Do I need to pick up a hobby? And I just laughed because I was like, I do, I guess I do have hobbies, but my work is my passion project. Like it's my baby. It's my life's work. Like if I had to choose, it would be between, if it wasn't being with my family, and with my family involves also like the gardening, the chickens, the animals and things like that. It would be my work, right? So, like if I ever have time to myself, I want to be learning. I want to be doing my life's work. And that means like reading, or that means, meditating, like, it just lights me up. So I've lost my train of thought, but the past, 8 months being in such an immersive, deep, like it wasn't just like a prereq course in college to where you just had to get a passing grade. Like it was like a life-changing for me, and I was becoming like a teacher, but for me, I'm like, I want to go through this too. Like I feel this connection to this too, and I want to be doing the learnings and the work too. And of course, like I truly believe, like to be the teacher, you have to be the student as well. And it's this beautiful cycle. And I'd laugh whenever I'd have a conversation with someone. They're like, oh, what's new? How are you? Or, what's been going on in your life? And it would kind of stump me because I'd be like, nothing's new. Like, what's wrong with me? But then I'm like, Jenna, like you are in like this, it's a very, like this very demanding, not demanding is not the right word, but just a very time consuming, like this was what was going on within, the 2024 was certification. Like this was my life, the certifications outside of my family. And it's been amazing. I want to share just a few of the biggest takeaways that come to mind for the sake of this episode, that I've learned through going through the instinctive meditation certification process, through that I feel like that can be beneficial for you, and that I'm bringing into my clients' work, putting this into my toolkit, putting this into how I communicate, how I feel about myself, how I connect with others, how I connect with myself. And there's only a few. And again, like I could have sat here and probably wrote down so many. I probably could have written down a whole page of aha moments and learnings and just principal core factors of meditation. But the few that I really want to drive home, it's just a few core principles of, one, being welcoming and accepting all parts of ourselves. Healing is not about dismissing, or healing is not about letting go of parts of yourself. Yes, we change, we evolve, but healing is about welcoming those parts of you that have been shoved under the rug, welcoming parts of yourself that you might feel ashamed for, or that you've been conditioned away from. You feel that you can't be this because of an expectation of someone else's, or of society, or where you live, or environmental, or whatever. Welcoming and accepting all parts of ourselves. And the depth here, like I could talk hours on these topics, because there is so much depth. We have so many identities within ourselves. We have so many pieces of ourselves that are stuck in our subconscious that we maybe have repressed or suppressed, and that we might have a flash or a trigger, or something shines and we're like, oh my gosh, what was that? And it might bring up a memory, or it might bring up a traumatic memory, and then we might shove that back down. Or we might bring it to light, like, oh my gosh, I remember when I was little, I used to do that, So it's welcoming and accepting all parts of ourselves. Because when we come from a place of welcoming and come from a place of acceptance, we can then learn. If there is that jealous component, if there is, that cynical component, if there is, just that zealous or that envy or that desire that you feel shame for, maybe allow it to come to surface, to be able to be talked to be able to listen to what that piece of you has to say. And again, there's so much depth here, but the welcoming and accepting all parts of ourselves, that also goes for, being fearless in who you are, loving yourself unconditionally, trusting yourself, trusting your inner guidance, trusting your sensations, trusting your intuition, trusting yourself versus always seeking what's outside of you. You have everything inside of you. I say that at the end of every episode, like, you have everything inside of you. But we have to be willing and open to accept it and welcome what is inside of us, right? And number 2 is the syzygies of life, the flows of life. Imagine an infinity symbol, okay? We are constantly in the ebbs and flows, the highs, the lows, the goods, the bads, I want to stay home today. Oh gosh, I want to go out tonight. Like, we have these flows of energy. And when we accept that, we'll release the guilt. We'll release the feelings of not feeling a certain way, or gosh, we should be doing this, or I need to be doing this, because we accept that we are in this ever-ending flow. The syzygy of, we are all so unique, but we are all one. The syzygy of we breathe in to breathe out, like the flows of life. It really opened my eyes to slowing down in life, to really appreciating, to really listening to what I need, to my body, like that somatic piece of, listening to what my body is needing. Syzygy is about a union, a dance of the opposites. And when we meet that middle of the infinity symbol, but then we go back to the outside, and then we meet that middle of the infinity symbol and go back to the other side, so the other opposite, it just brings this beautiful perspective to life, and it kind of shuts out. It helps to shut out that outside noise a little bit, to really come back home to you and who you are, and into your life, into your being. And the third is, meditation is not about silencing your mind. It's not about pushing out your thoughts. It's not about, sitting in stillness, even though I always say this, like, asterisk for me and, for those other busy moms out there, or just if you do really strive or seek that quietness or that stillness, it's okay, because I feel like a lot of times, like, it's my reset, it's my nervous system regulation, it's like my coming back down moments of, in meditation. But meditation, it's not about silencing your mind. It's about allowing your body, mind system to do what it needs to do in order to thrive. Like, it's about healing and trusting to do what you're instinctively created to do. So my meditations look completely different day in and day out. A lot of times, like, I'm a stay-at-home mom with my kids, so a lot of times it does start as just like that breath work, that regulation piece, that, okay, let's come back to my body. But then it's like this a lot of times it's like just these random stories start popping up, or something I forgot to do, yesterday or the day before, and then, or something, an altercation that I had, or a conversation that I had, and gosh, I could have done this better. It's like the processing, right? I see meditation as this just processing, your body's way of processing, and you allowing yourself to actually do it. It's a healing. It's an instinctive way of healing, and our bodies naturally know how to do it. And that's something that, this was very surface level, but that's something I'm just very grateful that I came across instinctive meditation, because I've known, story time here. I have known that I was going to get certified in meditation and root cause, or like some sort of like emotional release. I knew I was going to get certified in this for years. I just wasn't sure when. Like, I kid you not, when I had my first, so almost 6 years ago, like, the amount of downloads that have come into my life over, 6 years is a long time, but it's not a long time, right? I've known for so long, like, and it's just been like putting the pieces together, right? And I am so thankful that I found instinctive meditation. It fell into my lap as I was getting certified in energetic, so energy healing. It was referred to me because I said, I really want to look into meditation certification, but I'm not really sure what I want to do. Like, are there different types of meditation? Like, I didn't even know I was meditating for so long. So I really was kind of like picky. Like, I really want to know what these people's styles of meditation are. And it was the first referral. And I was like, this is it. This is it. Like, I've never heard of this, but this is what I've been doing for, it was just crazy. Like, when those stars align, right? And I found root cause therapy around the same time that I found instinctive meditation. But I wasn't going to be going through 2 certifications at one time for the sake of my sanity and to continue to be present for my family. So I had this knowing for a long time, even before I was in these certifications, that this was what I was going to be doing. I just wasn't sure how and in what capacity. And some of those answers I still don't have. And that's the beauty of surrender and letting what is meant to be to present itself when it is meant to be presented, or when that opportunity arises, or when you have, surpassed a lesson that you needed to learn before this opportunity would be presented to you, and not forcing it. Because trust me, like, I am the type of person, I have the next 2 to 3 years, maybe 5 years, like, planned out in the future. Like, I always like have my goals, and I'm going to do this and then this and this and this and then this and then this. And I'm like, oh my gosh, that's probably like going to take about 2 to 3 years. All right, cool. Let's do this. But like, I've learned and accepted that is my plan. And it's a loose plan, and it can and will unfold and change in the present time when it is meant to, right? So, and then that's the beauty of the synchronicity. And when things are aligned and you're like, oh my gosh, like, I've known this for so long, or I knew this was meant to be, or it's just that beautiful faith of it all also. Another little story too, and then we'll kind of move on here. But I told you this was going to be a little hodgepodge of an episode. But something that I had in a meditation recently, and it was really just like one of those light bulb moments. And the reason that I share this stuff too is, yes, I'm sharing about me, and I don't like sharing about me so much, but I do, because I feel that one, it relates, it resonates. I know, like, I love hearing about other people. So I'm sure, you as listeners, I hope that you don't mind these episodes that I talk a little bit more about, me and my story and my journey. But also to shine light as when you have these random thoughts, or when you have these random, memories pop up and you're like, what was that for? Like, to find the beauty and the magic in them. Like, life is so simple. It is so simple, yet it's not easy, right? Like, there's so much to muddle us up. But when we really, like, bring it down, like, what's most important to you? Who you love, who you care about, having a roof over your head, food on the table. Like, it's so simple. Loving, being happy, right? Feeling good. And we get so caught up in the rat races, or the outside noise, or the expectations, or the shoulds, or the whatever. It's like, it's always having something to ground you or to come back home. So I love finding the magic in the signs, seeing a sign, or having a memory pop up and you're like, oh my gosh, I remember that. And like, here I am today. Like, oh my gosh, I think there's a trend going around now. Like, oh, if only, look at us now. If 8-year-old me would see where we're at now, and it was like someone's career, and then like they were dressed up as that when they were little or something. Like, it's just so beautiful. So a meditation flashback that I had, and I used to do this when I was little. I kid you not. I used to do this all the time. When I was upset, or like crying or anxious, or like when I was just really upset, I remember I'd go to the bathroom and I would talk to myself. I would like talk to, okay, what's wrong, Jenna? And I'm crying or I'm sad. Like it would be so surface level, right? But my goal was to get to the root. I remember, okay, let's get to the root of why. Let's get to the root of why. And I remember like holding my tummy, like, okay, what's that core? What's that core in my tummy of why I'm upset? And I would keep asking myself why and getting to the core and getting to the root. I used to do this when I was little. And then it was like that light bulb moment of like, you've always known that you were meant to do root work. And I've always been so fascinated in like root cause stuff. It's just like the deja vus, within life, or, it's, I don't even know, because like within my energy healing or within instinctive meditation or within this root cause therapy that I'm starting right now, I'm learning things and it's like, I knew that already. Like I've known this, but it's like, I almost need like that validation of like, okay, this is where the credible source comes in. Because if I would have just said it on the willy-nilly, no one would believe, quotes, like no one would believe me because I didn't have the study backed by it. You know what I mean? Like, it's just like I am so connected to this calling, my life's work. And I'm so thankful to be doing this work. Now, changing topics here. I'm going to be getting a little astrological. This has seriously been, this is a passion of mine. It always has been. Like, picture you as a teenager, flipping through a magazine and like going to your horoscope, right? Like I've always been obsessed with horoscopes and like, stars and astrology and, oh gosh. Okay. So the Scorpio in me, the more that I read about Scorpio, it's like humorous and scary. Like it has me shook. How connected, how I'm a Scorpio. I am a Scorpio through and through. That is my sun sign. And going into your birth chart, like looking at your moon and your south nodes, your north node, like it's crazy. Like I've just been so obsessed with figuring out like my family's birth charts and stuff lately on the side, right? But I've always been so drawn to the depths, like going into the darkest of the shadows within myself, within others, within life's lessons and learnings. Like to get to the roots, to get to the foundations, to learn everything about something, to have a complete grasp on it. And, it's just like the depths. Like hence my younger self intuitively, connecting to the inner wisdom of like getting to that root of whatever I was struggling with. Like I needed the depth of something. My husband is not a Scorpio. My husband is not an emotional being. I think he's still a water sign. We're all on cusp. It's crazy. My whole family's on like a cusp. But gosh, yes, he's very intuitive, but he's not as connected to the depths of emotion. So yeah, like when we're laying in bed or whatever, like I'm always like analyzing and like getting deep and going down rabbit holes, and it's so fascinating. And he's like, it's just funny. Our pillow talk. But okay, so my feels of why root cause therapy is the next best answer and resource to add to my toolbox of coaching and mentorship. Now we're going to get into some nitty of like what root cause therapy is, okay? So we all live complex lives. We all go through hardships. We all have different upbringings. We have different environments, different societal atmospheres, different dynamics, different, everything's different. We all have emotions. We're all made of energy. And then that energy is based on the experiences and how our body is taught to process it or not process it, and then potentially get stuck within our bodies, our soma. So unraveling some of the truth behind, how we are the way we are and how we act and react and process and live, it can partially be dependent on our past experiences and how we interpret it. So it's not necessarily that the event itself may have traumatized us or caused us to have these stuck emotions or unprocessed emotions. It's rather how we respond. So then that trauma or that stuck emotion is the result when an event overwhelms our system's capacity to process what is actually happening. So think of two people. One person might have processed the emotion. They may have had, a safe space or a safe container, or they may have been a little older, or it just might not have traumatized one person, but the same thing may have happened to someone else and it may have traumatized them. So what's traumatizing for one person may not be for another person, because that situation alone does not cause the trauma. Rather, it's the energetic component that overwhelms our capacity to process the experience or to do anything about what is actually occurring. And of course, there's so many more layers to that. If it was a one-time occurrence, if it was repeated, what the event actually was, and so on. So there's a big spider web there. But more often than not, as a collective society that we currently live in, we often choose to ignore or shove under the rug or suppress or repress said experiences or emotions or traumas simply because it's more comfortable to not deal with it. Trigger came up. Nope, we're going to shove that back under the rug. Whoa, why did I just respond that way? Nope, we're going to shove it back under the rug, right? That we kind of get into that automatic phase, that habitual pattern of being on the rat race, right? Not fully feeling. And that leads to compounded emotions, to stuck energies, to blockages formed that interfere with our highest intentions, with, bridging that gap to your highest self, or, to living your best life. So avoidance, in my opinion, if your goal is to live, a free, peaceful, full of love, gratitude life, avoidance is not an option long term, right? You have to deal with your shit. So eventually everything will come to the surface. And we always have a choice to either work with it, with what's normally hidden or what we normally shove under the rug habitually, or run from it again. And I know that I've said this on the show before, we always have that choice to say, no, not today. I'm not ready today, or I'm not willing today. I don't have the capacity, the mental space today. But understand that your subconscious mind will continue to bring things up that need to be healed or worked through or processed to benefit for our highest good. So you may have heard of the terms suppression or repression. Suppression is when we consciously shove something under the rug. Repression is when we subconsciously keep it out of our conscious mind. And both can both can exist. We could have suppressed emotions, we could have repressed emotions, we could have stuck energies. They all exist. The thing is, what sometimes that knowledge gap is, well, where do you think your self-doubt or your self-limiting beliefs or your sabotaging efforts or the things that always happen to you and these cycles or the same thing, and it's what is going on? Why do I constantly manifest the same types of things? And the way to deal with these energies is to acknowledge them, to face them, to process them. And through the awareness, we can accept them and transmute them, allowing them to process, right? And only after we get to these roots are we able to become free, right? Then these emotions, these energies are then released, and we can begin to then rewire, or we can begin to, oh my gosh, my perspective's completely changed. Oh my gosh, why this habit has been so hard to break for how many years, and now it's I just get it now. It's just that off switch or that on switch. Bam. So about root cause therapy and releasing these stuck emotions, the traumas, the energies, let's break down kind of what our roots can be on a physical standpoint. Because I kind of already explained that once it's formed, once the experience happened, once the emotion was suppressed or repressed, it becomes stuck energy within our bodies. And this can be anything or everything that was too overwhelming, too frightening, too intense, when we originally experienced it, going back to what I was saying earlier with our systems were too overwhelmed to actually process what was going on. So these roots can also hold parts of ourselves that we are ashamed of, that we cannot bear to face. Maybe, we turn into a completely different person when we drink and then we have guilt or shame, or maybe we don't want to identify with different aspects of ourselves, so we separate them, by just acting like they don't exist. So let's use an example. For instance, you as a child experienced an emotion. You did not understand it. you did not know what to do with it, so you were lashing out, and you did not get the guidance from a caregiver on how to process it. Or maybe you are punished for displaying that emotion altogether. So you then dissociate from that emotion. You're putting in your mind, okay, this is not good, I cannot do this. It becomes a part of your root work. It becomes a stuck emotion. Or another example, let's say your parents get divorced when you were little. You're completely rocked. Your world is shook. You shoved pieces of you, your feelings, emotions down so deep to try to stay strong. But now you're triggered as an adult by certain events. Or maybe different things in relationships. Or you have these these anger bouts, or dissociation presents itself. Because that's its way of protecting you from feeling or processing what you went through when your parents got divorced, those emotions that you shoved down so deep. It's almost like when we have that trigger and that anger comes out, or like that big, like scary monster emotion comes out, it's normally what's beneath that needs to be seen or heard. The protection mechanism is the anger, is the outburst. What's underneath that. And I feel like that's also that knowledge gap of we get scared or shy away or shove under the rug because of the outburst, when if we give it a little more time, if we open that door a little more to welcome everything through, then we can see the emotion under the emotion. Does that make sense? So, I mean, even in broadest terms, I want to ask you a question. Like, presently in your adult life, have you ever felt that like you have this infinite loop of repeating patterns, good or bad, but you have, let's say, the same failed relationships for the same reasons, or similar struggles within work, or you always exercise by 8 a.m. without fail, right? These could be good or bad patterns within your life. Maybe you have a poor lifestyle habit that helps you cope by numbing out, right? To blur those edges after a busy day at work. Only through going deep within and facing those deepest roots can we break these conditioned patterns. Like, how freaking hard is it to break a habit? I know it's so hard. And a lot of times we're not even aware of the habit that we have. So that's, I always say, bringing it back, awareness and intention here. So only through awareness can we face our deepest roots, can we break the conditioned patterns or self-sabotaging cycles that block us from our highest potential. And when we look at these roots and stuck emotions from a compassionate, welcoming, accepting viewpoint, we see that all these energies, like, they're not here to hurt us. They're not here to sabotage us. Just within a moment, within time, within space, that we had these emotions, these energies that we did not have the ability to confront, the things that were too much for us in those moments to experience because we didn't have the tools to work with it. So we packed them far away from our conscious identities as possible. And the tricky thing is here, as long as that energy remains there, that compounded, that stuck energy remains wherever it is within your body, it has the ability to control you. It's attached to you. I mean, and this is not good or bad. I'm not talking good, bad, positive, negative. I'm just saying the energy is stuck. And that's what's causing, a limiting belief, or that's what's causing a positive belief. It affects us until we unpack it and accept it, that it's a part of us. And then we're able to transmute it, release it, process it. So the first part of understanding your root causes is knowing that it remains with you, maybe just a little bit out of your conscious view. Like, if anything out of this episode, if you're like, oh my gosh, Jenna, like, this is way too deep, this is way too long, I hope it just shakes you up a little bit to like open your eyes a little bit, to be like, oh wow, like, I would love to know, is this interesting? Is this interesting to you? Is this something that, I mean, you obviously are listening to this podcast and this is the direction that this show is going into. How do you feel about it? Like, how do you feel? Because this going back to pillow talk here, like, this is what I asked my husband these questions. Like, how do you feel like you have the ability to like release emotions and traumas that we experienced when we were little? Or, like, just the craziest, wildest questions, thoughts that I would have never thought that I would be, like, conversations I never would have thought I'd be having in my life. But this is my truth. It's just so clear to me now. And going back here, as, these roots are just out of our conscious view, they're working within our subconscious mind. These root causes, they're responsible for what, we're doing in the conscious, in our conscious state. Like, I'm sure that you've heard, our conscious brain is like, I'm probably being a little gracious here, 10% of our, mind body system. Like 90% of how we work is through our subconscious minds. How are we not exploring this more, right? How are we not diving into our subconscious minds? Like, it's just so flipping fascinating and interesting. So your root causes are responsible when you have an intense reaction to something, or why you are the way you are, something that you don't know why, a trigger. Why are you attracted to certain things and not attracted to certain things? Why do you have these infinite loops, these infinite patterns? And these root causes, they want to be seen, good and bad. Again, we're not talking good, bad, positive, negative, but working with these energies, it does require courage and support and compassion, because a lot of times we're working through those roots. We're getting to those roots of, where our struggles arise, where our traumas arise, where our triggers, come from. So accepting your stuck emotions without judgment, and having a safe container, that's key to then processing, transmuting, releasing. So root cause work, it's some of the deepest work that we could do within ourselves. And root cause work, I'm taking a root cause therapy certification, but there's a lot of different modalities that really encompass the somatic practice, the somatic root cause work. I'm so thankful. Again, this specific certification fell into my lap, and it was one of those. I was looking into doing so many different things, like emotion code, somatic, I forget, like polyvagal theory and things like that, which I'm not throwing out that I won't ever do it. But this came up and I was like, this is it. This is it. So yeah, like root cause work, it's some of the deepest work we could do within ourselves. It's an integral part of who you are. It's a healing practice and a necessary component to bridging that gap to living your destined path. And I feel like we could all raise our hands, like who wants to bridge that gap to live their soul-aligned essence, right? To live their soul-aligned life filled with peace, presence, confidence, clarity, belief, joy, love, balance, like our innate state of being. In this certification that I'm enrolled in, it's actually trauma and addiction focused, which I'm so just like intrigued by. Of course, I'm totally infatuated with releasing stuck emotions, right? Like that's a big part of this. But that can range from so much, right? Like I'll be trained to help with I don't want to use, I'm very particular here with my vocabulary, because I don't want to say simple to complex or good to bad. But I want you to paint a picture here on the whole scale of addiction and trauma, the whole scale. Because the view that root cause therapy sees addiction is in a way where people are numbing themselves from emotional pain. Let it be through substance, through food, through relation, through, it could be anything. It doesn't have to be like sticking a needle in your arm. This could be in terms of eating habits, alcohol consumption, relationships, okay? So addiction is a way for people to get out of the negative energy, out of that negative pain, and to reach what we feel is essentially what we're all reaching for, that higher scale of consciousness, that peace, joy, love. And if you do something that makes you feel good when nothing else is working, despite the negative effects and outcomes, that come later, we begin to self-medicate. But the thing is, it doesn't last. Whenever you stop using whatever it is that you're using, let it be food, drugs, alcohol, sex, whatever that is. It's like that short-term gratification. So you're going to have the same issues arise again and again, hence needing to do whatever that you're doing again and again, hence bringing an addictive behavior back again and again to achieve the momentary escape, the momentary high, the numbing, the blurring of the edges, feeling like having that grasp of joy or presence or love or gratification. As Dr. Gabor Mate, I hope that I pronounce his name right, he's amazing. He has a quote. He says, "It's not why the addiction, but why the pain." Like, AKA, let's get to the root of where this lies. And going back to that scale of consciousness, that bottom end of the scale, you'll see, the negative emotions, the lower frequencies, and moving up that scale, that frequency improves. So this is how people feel. The thoughts that we're having, the actions that we're taking. because of how we're feeling, and that cycle continues. So as people move up to more positive levels of frequency, their thoughts get more positive, et cetera, et cetera. And the more that we do one thing, then we'll build neural pathways to do the more of the same thing, to create more habitual patterns. So to help people feel naturally good, peaceful, happy, we then realize and release those stuck emotions, the negative energy that's binding them to these lower levels of that scale of consciousness, that jealousy, the envy, the greed, the desire, whatever that might be. And essentially figuring out, getting to the root of why they are feeling the need to escape those feelings. Hence, processing whatever those emotions are to be able to transmute them to raise our scale of consciousness. So root cause therapy allows us, me as a practitioner, to guide you through and heal and release that darkness, that pain, those compounded emotions within you. Like why you're feeling those lower feelings, let it be, you don't need to be using substance. You don't need to be having an addiction or a trauma. But I feel that a lot of us, to some capacity on the scale, have certain patterns or have had experiences that have stuck with us, that we consciously remember or maybe subconsciously are repressing. So with root cause therapy, we help to naturally release these emotions, these stuck energies, to start feeling better, bring up that scale of consciousness to a balanced level of what you are chasing after, to, raise that scale of consciousness. And this method allows us to directly find the root causes of why the behavior, why the feeling, why the emotion, why it started, to then consciously understand and have the awareness and the wisdom to stay indefinitely in your newfound, lease of life, like to raise that level of consciousness. So, like root cause therapy, if you can't tell, we're almost at 42 minutes here. I told you this was just going to be kind of a little me chit-chatting here. But root cause therapy, it could be used for relationship problems with yourself and or with others, family issues, addiction recovery, mental health, your health in general, health and well-being, spiritual, personal development, business, abundance, growth, trauma healing, and so much more. Like it is, I am just so like, this is it. This is it. So let's start wrapping. One more thought that just came to me that I want to share is why I went after energetics and instinctive meditation first. Because me being me, the Scorpio sun in me, like I felt that I needed to complete, let's say, a couple prerequisites, before starting this. I don't know. I have no idea why. I'm just so happy I did. I followed my gut. I followed my intuition. Like I said before, like I knew I was doing energetics meditation. Like I just knew within all of me, like this is what it is and this is just the order I'm going to do it, I guess. It's like the foundational piece for me, how I work and how I have formed the puzzle pieces together for me. And again, I share that for you to start to, view things within your life, the choices that you make, the things that you're doing, to view it from that perspective. Learning who you are again, to come back home to yourself, to love yourself, to trust yourself, and to know that you could always come back home to connect with yourself. So what does all this mean for you? Like bridging the gap, between you and your soul's essence. And I'm so excited to bring this into my services, to morph this into our one-on-one meditative energy healing sessions, like to see how I'm going to morph this all together. I can't wait to have this option, because I am just so confident that this is going to help. I'm going to say the collective, like this is huge. So root cause therapy, just a couple things. Like I'm not healing you. Like you are healing you. Just like with energetics, just like in instinctive meditation, like I'm just the channel in helping you wake up and helping you connect to your subconscious mind, to release any necessary stuck emotions, energies, to help you step back into your energy of alignment, to help you raise your level of consciousness, to feel how you want to feel those innate states of being, the peace, presence, confidence, clarity, belief, joy, love, balance, however you are wanting to feel. So I am this conduit for you to have these revelations, to have these awakenings for yourself. for your highest good, for your highest benefit. And I feel once we step into who we truly are, to be fearless in who we are, the more conscious people that are in the world, it's a gift that we can give back to the entire world. So that's that. I wanted to give you a little update and share where my nose has been deep in books and readings and with just my obsessions and learnings lately. So I just want to thank you. Thank you for spending this sacred time with me here on Naturally Empowered Living. I would love to hear from you. I would love to hear your thoughts about, where we're going, like this evolution of naturally empowered living, energetics work, nervous system regulation with instinctive meditation, root cause therapy to remove any blockages to help us step into our highest power. Like, oh, golly, I am just so smitten. I'm so smitten. That's that. Oh, I pray this episode just has brought you like joy and excitement too, and just a step closer to tuning into your energy of alignment. And if it has, I would be so appreciative for you to share this with another mom who would benefit from hearing this, to hear, what naturally empowered living is all about. And also, if it feels good to you, I would love for you to write a written review sharing how the show is impacting you and our connection together. It just lights me up to hear from you. I thank you, dear friends. Until next week, as always, simply be you. You have everything inside of you to learn your energy of alignment and be unapologetic in who you are. I'm sending my love and so much light.
Did you find this episode relatable or empowering? Please read my love video.
Thank you for spending this sacred time with me on Naturally Empowered Living. I pray this episode has brought you a step closer to tuning into your energy of alignment. And if it has, please consider leaving a written review sharing how this show has impacted you. Your feedback truly lights me up and helps other moms find their way to this community. And if it feels right, please share this episode with another mom who might be struggling, to remind her that she's never alone. Be sure to check the show notes for more ways to connect and explore how we could work together to reclaim your power and deepen your relationship within. Thank you. I appreciate all you are and all you do.